And that may well mean that the Liberal Party is unelectable at the next election. This is a fairly depressing thought, so let's move on and talk about Albanese again. In his first term in office, Albanese took Mike Burgess, who was the head of ASIO, away from being a permanent member of the Australia's really powerful organisation, the National Security Commission. He normally had been a permanent member of that, and Albanese removed him from being a permanent member. And he could visit, he could come on occasions, he could be called by the committee, but he was no longer a permanent member. Now, that happened. Albanese did that in his first term in office, and it was reported by a Sky News reporter, Olivia Caisley. Well, Olivia Caisley is now with the ABC, so she's defected from one political party to another. But she had an opportunity to talk to Albanese about that on the ABC breakfast program, and this is how the exchange went.
Was it a mistake to remove ASIO and the Australian Federal Police from Home Affairs and exclude intelligence chiefs from the National Security Committee meetings for nearly 2 years in your first term of government?
Well, the premise of the question is wrong.
No, how is it, Prime Minister?
The premise is completely wrong. We have completely engaged with all of the national security.
The ASIO Director General.
Mike Burgess was appointed. Mike Burgess was appointed to. No, that's.
He wasn't.
Mike
he didn't
Burgess
attend
was at every single meeting
for 2 years in the first term of the government.
Sorry, Olivia. I'm sorry, Olivia, but you weren't at the NSC meetings. I was.
Yes. But also, he wasn't telling the exact truth, because it really is the case that Mike Burgess was removed as a permanent member of the National Security Commission. Now, he's been restored since then, but it did happen in Albanese's first term, and he's now pretending it didn't happen. And what struck me was just how incredibly defensive he is, how prickly. He cannot cope with even the slightest level of personal criticism.
This is the Albo we saw during the election campaign. Under pressure, when he's being questioned by journalists, he is a very disagreeable guy. He just oozes sourness. And I think the way he was even speaking to that poor ABC journalist was very patronising.
Yes.
It was, if that was a coalition MP speaking like that to a young female journalist, they would be skewered.
Mm-hmm. Would have made headlines and been replayed everywhere that you possibly could see. But it's also, yet again, Anthony Albanese standing up there and gaslighting the nation. He can't just tell the truth and say, yes, it was an error of our judgment and we reinstated Mike Burgess back into a full-time position in 2024. Sorry, we made an error. And then you just move on. But when you behave like that, and that's what's so frustrating, but when you behave like that, you just realise that he is just so out of his depth and incapable of being a leader because he can't admit when he has made a mistake, and that is a fundamental issue that we have with this Prime Minister.
Yep, and I think it's one of the things that can infect the political arena. Doesn't have to. There are lots of fairly modest politicians who'll say, got this wrong, got that right. I did a long interview with a retired senior politician once, reflecting on his career, and it turned out, it was amazing. In every instance where there was a dispute, he was always right and his opponents were always wrong. So there are some people in the political field who are just like that.
But I think, Albo, now in the climate that we're in and the level of anger in the community, that kind of behaviour just will not fly anymore.